Welcome to the PowerCat Podcast, the original K-State sports show. Here's your host, Tim Fitzgerald.
Welcome to the PowerCat Podcast. Fitz and the gang, Gills and Snows and Steves. I don't know. Snows works okay.
Yeah.
Stevens is going to be a problem, Gills.
Yeah.
Working that Z in is not easy because it already says Stevens.
Yeah, it's already there. It's just too long.
Okay, Jakes.
Yeah.
We've got a hodgepodge podcast today, a little football, a little basketball. We did have a media opportunity on Wednesday with K-State football, so we'll talk about that a little bit with Van Malone. Always interesting when Coach Malone comes in because he prepares. He's always prepared. He has notes. He had a poem. Jake, are you in a discotheque right now?
It kind of feels like it. I don't know. I just yelled at people to turn music down.
No, it's you got a flashing light.
Where?
On your face.
It's probably the TV.
Oh, good call.
He's over here doing a podcast while he's watching TV, folks.
Hey, it's Masters Week. Come on now.
I thought it was something important. Like
Gills.
As long as it's on mute, and you don't have to listen to Jim Nance, you'll be all right.
Hello, friends. Guys, this so no questions from Wabash Station, and I want to say that this is part of a creative flurry from us that we're going to try it this way this week, but we've got to post the questions. So I can't be trusted with such duties, and yet here I am. I'm supposed to be posting questions, and I forget. But let's get after it, boys, and let's start with football. Give me your initial thoughts on the Van Malone press conference. Did you learn much? Because I didn't. And Gills, just speak for a while because my brain doesn't work.
Yeah, it was probably less with Van Malone and more with guys like Cheedy and Dylan, Lane Gang. Am I saying that correctly, Fitz? As well as Toby Osunsomnian. So yeah, we got some. Go check that out on GoPowercat. Some good stuff from them. But yeah, I mean, it's guys look bigger and different. And not just with the press conference availability, but the open practice that we went to. Guys on Tuesday, like Avery. I thought Avery looked just kind of bigger. Like guys look bigger, stronger in this extra time here in the spring for weights and getting your body built. I think they've taken advantage of that.
Grant?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I can relate to that with what Gil said. I think this is the fastest and biggest K-State team I've seen in a while. And I mean, I've been able to be a part of it firsthand. I mean, my first month at K-State, I was able to put on 15 pounds with Coach True. I mean, that training segment and workout is legit stuff, and they're going to get guys ready to roll. But, yeah, it was honestly kind of fun with Van Malone today. Wasn't expecting it, but we got it. And he's a good dude, great coach. But kind of dodged a few questions, I thought, maybe about some personalities on the team. But, yeah, learned a few things.
Jake?
Yeah, I mean, you could tell they got Van Malone's media training right. He was very prepared and ready to go, very well spoken. But kind of like Gills highlighted, I feel like we got to learn quite a bit more from the individual breakouts of players. I mean, and even just looking at the guys, you could tell. Looking at Toby, he looks way bigger. He looks ready to really take on that edge role. I mean, he looked huge in there today. And Cheedy looked big. I mean, everybody just looked, and it's not big in a bad way. They look like strong dudes that I don't want to be across the football from. So. Got to learn a lot from those guys. They kind of highlighted some DB stuff. Heard a lot about Jaden Rowe today. Felt like he's going to be kind of a centerpiece of this defense potentially because they wouldn't stop talking about how fast he is, how strong he is, and how well he's been moving. So got to kind of hear some interesting things about the individual guys today a little bit more.
Well, let's talk about Jaden Rowe. He was a topic here, and he wasn't one of the guys that came in. I mean, it was Cheedy, Toby, Lane Gang, and Dylan Edwards today, who's a great group of players. Thank you, Ryan Lackey. But, yeah, a lot of us have questions about that defensive backfield and cornerback in particular, but it looks like Rowe's going to be, along with other transfers, into the mix here, Grant.
Yeah. Yeah, sorry, I just glitched out a little bit. But, yeah, Jaden Rowe, I mean, a lot of guys have been talking about him, and Van Malone especially is really excited about this guy. I mean, as long as he can stay healthy, I think this is going to be a really good corner for the Cats this year. And K-State's had a lot of good corners over the years. You talked about the guys like Jacob Parrish, Echo Boydo, Julius Brents, and he's kind of the guy who's expected to kind of step into this role and kind of be the guy in that room. a lot of hype out of high school, obviously went to Oklahoma. So as long as this guy can stay healthy, I think he's going to be one heck of a player for K-State. I mean, he's fast. You had VJ back there as well. That's a couple of really fast dudes that are going to be able to stay with just about any wide receiver room in this Big 12.
Jay, give me more thoughts on that. I actually losing Jacob Parrish leaves a giant hole. Here's a guy that came in as a true freshman and began contributing, and the transformation of him physically from freshman to the guy that tested for the NFL is radically different. But to be able to go out and find a veteran corner that can step in and play and have the physicality you need on the outside, you either have to be able to run or, beef up, preferably both. But it's hard to find those guys. Those guys are playing in the league. Road's experience and size.
Yeah, and you kind of talked about Parrish there and the way that he grew, and that's a kid that I grew up playing against my whole life living in Olathe, and so watching his transformation was incredible. But Jaden Rowe, I mean, he already comes in and he's a big corner. I mean, he's 6'3", 6'4", he's 215, 220 pounds. That's not normal for a corner. And his build almost reminds me of like an Isaiah Simmons type who can kind of just move fluidly everywhere. And Clemson did that with Isaiah Simmons quite a few years ago now, but he's just able to really take up space. They talked today about him being able to jam really well at the line when I was talking with Toby. And he's popped a lot of eyes in just a very short amount of time they've had in spring ball here. So he's a player that I'm excited to watch. This cornerback room has some question marks in it. Justice James obviously he's been here the longest, but doesn't have a whole lot of defensive experience. And then you've got Donovan McIntosh and Zayshawn Rich, who showed some stuff in the bowl game, but there's a lot of question marks and a lot of playing time open at the corner spot. So we'll see kind of how it goes, but I seem to like Jaden Rowe so far.
Gills, the last two you mentioned there were young guys that played quite a bit in the bowl game, and I thought they acquitted themselves quite well. I thought they were really good. In fact, to be blunt, I thought they played better as a pair than we saw most pairs play for K-State. But having that mix of young that are coming back with some experience and an older guy coming in, it makes it very intriguing for Van Malone in picking his corners.
Yeah, and that's the value of playing in that bowl game. I remember after Iowa State up in Ames, Kleiman was asked about maybe the message to his team after a loss like that. And it was, play the bowl game, play the bowl game. And he was preaching that to his dudes. And you see that, the momentum. And, Dylan Edwards on the other side of the football at running back talked about that as well. Just kind of the momentum that can give you. And that's obviously there on both sides with obviously Edwards. But, yeah, Fitz at the cornerback position as well.
Yep. Well, let's get to Dylan Edwards. He's always very good in the media room. He handles himself quite well. He's been coached up quite exceptionally in every area of the game, including that. And I appreciate that because he comes in, he's all business. He talks about stuff. He gives you good answers. You guys were all in on that. Gills, you were filming most of that. How was Mr. Edwards today?
Mr. Edwards.
Mr.
He was
Edwards.
good. He was good. Yeah, I mean, obviously he touched on that bowl game, and D. Scott, the man of the hour, in that presser. D. Scott was mentioned he led Power 4 in yards per attempt. I didn't even know that. Maybe I knew it, but I forgot. But obviously that shows off just kind of his ceiling, his explosiveness, and Dylan Edwards said something along the lines of not wanting to just run the football. Right, he can do more. Pass catching, obviously getting in motion and stuff like that. So a real versatile piece to this offense who, Kansas State is going to need with a guy like DJ Giddens leaving who, say what you want about DJ Giddens' talent. Like he's a top-notch talent, but the usage that number 31 had last year, that's where Dylan Edwards really needs to step up and replace that. And I think he's ready for that challenge, and his team is ready to give him that challenge.
Jake, build off of that. You talked about a little bit last time around about diversifying the offense and how Dylan Edwards can help with that. And I got to be honest, I think we all were a little bit disappointed in his usage or lack thereof last season. There was some adjustment to the system, some learning curve there, but he looked pretty settled in by the bowl game. And I think he's right. I think he's a guy that you can load up the backfield and all of a sudden switch him out to receiver, and you've got something that's going to really mess with the defense. I don't feel like he was used well enough from that sense. messing with personnel. You put this personnel out there for the run game. Well, we're going to split them wide. And that's going to keep a defensive coordinator a little bit cautious about loading up on the run game.
Absolutely, because Dylan Edwards is the kind of player, and he's got the kind of speed that no matter where he goes on the field, eyes are on him all the time. Somebody's on Dylan Edwards because he's just that fast and he's that explosive. So I think one thing that we're all hoping to see this year, including Dylan himself, and he was talking about it, is just get him out wide a little bit. There might be a couple 5-out sets, and with Matt Wells at the helm, that may be something that he's more comfortable coaching than Coach Riley was. And we talked last episode about Coach Riley was really good at understanding that sometimes if you just give DJ Giddens the ball, good things happen. And so this year it may look a little different. We may have some 5-out sets. We may have some sets that Joe Jackson and Dylan Edwards are both on the field at the same time because they're both plenty capable, and we've seen that. So there's going to be new looks this year. I don't know how much of it will happen. Coach Kleiman last week kind of talked about how it's not a wholesale change in what they're trying to do here, but it's just bits and pieces of different things are going to look a little different. And I think if you've got a couple sets where Dylan Edwards is in one slot and Lincoln Kears in the other slot, or JB's in the other slot, and Jace Brown or Bradley you're getting open. I mean, there's so many different combinations you can put on the field that are just super explosive. And you've already got the fastest quarterback in the country with the ball every play. So there's a lot of speed. I think they're going to probably try to spread it out just a touch more this year than they did last year.
Grant, Jake speaks, and I get excited in a way that a man shouldn't, because everything he just said sounds so good. Now, tell me why it's not going to happen, or give me your opinion.
Yeah, I mean, Jake said a lot of good points, and like you said, Fitz, I mean, I'm excited about everything Jake just said. I hope we get to see everything he just said. But I mean, Dylan said it earlier. He just wants to get outside more. But I think if we see that, I'm not sure if Dylan Edwards is going to be that every down back, like what we all kind of expected him to do. I mean, if you do put him in the slot, maybe this guy doesn't mold into a true running back. I mean, Dylan Edwards has had a lot of success catching the football early in his career. I mean, he caught it 36 times at Colorado and 4 touchdowns. I think we all remember that TCU game when we were like, all right, let's see what we missed out on. Then he scored 4 touchdowns. We were like, well, shoot. He caught 2 touchdowns on just 19 passes last year here at K-State. So this is a guy who can really catch the ball when he's given space. So a really dangerous player. Is he going to turn into that every down back? Because he's obviously not the biggest dude in the room. I don't know if he's going to be able to run dudes over like the DJ Giddens was able to do in the last few years. So we'll see if he's kind of able to grow into that role. Do I think he can? Yeah, but will we see it? I'm not so sure.
Well, going into last year, I would have told you that DJ's the guy that'll run over you, and Dylan's the guy that'll run around you and make you look a fool. No, DJ became that. He absolutely was owning people, particularly in that Colorado game. His highlight reel looks probably pretty tantalizing to NFL scouts. Another topic that came up today, Gills, was the receivers, and you noticed it yesterday, or I guess it would have been Tuesday when we saw the open practice. They got some dudes. They look like a college receiving corps now. They have changed physically quite a bit.
Yeah, you can say that all you want, though, Fitz. And all of us, they can look like it, but this is not going to be the first time I've said this on a GoPowercat show. There's been a number of reasons throughout the years to have excitement, to be hype about a wide receiver room. And Chris Kleiman's Achilles heel maybe in Manhattan has been his wideouts year after year, just underperforming, maybe not abysmally awful years, but just underperforming, not living up to those expectations. And so this is maybe as high as the expectations have been, right? Certainly up near the top. Now it's time to deliver. Now it's time to show that on the field, because we can't just keep saying this year after year that this is the year for the wideouts. It's got to happen on the field.
Okay, let me kick that back to you. Has wideout play held this program back? Have they not been good enough at receiver to get to that next level?
I'd probably have to go with yes, honestly, over the past few years. I mean, there's been ever since the transfer portal's become a thing, I've thought we've added dudes out of the transfer portal that were really going to step into a true wide receiver one. And I mean, I thought K-State was going to take off in the wide receiver room. It's always been we're going to run the football down your throat program. And there's been years to get excited about the wide receiver room, and I feel like we just haven't felt that. I felt like we got that with the tight ends more last year more than we have ever in the past. So I'm really excited about this tight end room, but until I quite frankly see production on the field, I'm not honestly, I'm not going to buy into the whole this wide receiver room is going to be the best we've seen in the Kleiman era. So show me it on the field, then I'll start believing in it.
Jake Grant gave me the 45-year-old man answer. He sounds like, you sound like you grew up in Manhattan watching K-State football, and you understand exactly that you should reserve judgment until you actually see it manifest itself on the field.
Oh yeah,
Yep.
A lot of
Jake,
K-State.
They've got some dudes though. They do. Those three transfers came up, and one guy in particular got a lot of headlines.
Yeah, I mean, I think one thing too about the wide receiver in the last few years, I almost reserve some of that speculation too. I think that the quarterbacks in the room have been so different, and the styles of play have been so different. It could have been a tough thing there too. I mean, you bring in a guy like Adrian Martinez who runs the ball a ton. Avery runs the ball a ton. I think that can disrupt a little bit of the tempo and the timing between quarterbacks and receivers. But if there's a year for it to happen, I do really think it's this year. I think Avery has, started a full season's worth of games now. He's had plenty of time on the field. He's had a full offseason to get really comfortable with his wide receivers and comfortable throwing the ball, which we really haven't had like a guy as the quarterback. I guess Will Howard a couple seasons ago, but even then, Avery was always on his heels trying to push for that time. So, it's Avery's team this year. He's the guy. There's no question about it, which I think makes it all the more exciting that you bring in these transfers. And you still keep Jace Brown, by the way, who is the leading receiver from last year in the wide receiver room. You've got him still, and Avery and him have connections and that chemistry. But, they talked about Tibbs quite a bit coming in today. So there's plenty of options and plenty of new faces in this room that could make it really exciting.
Yeah, I'm telling you, it just looked different in practice. They certainly, when they split out guys, they're a little bit, what am I trying to say? More imposing. But Jaron Tibbs certainly looked that way at 6'2", 200. That isn't roster lion size either. The Purdue transfer comes in with just the kind of physicality I think you probably recognize you need. And I thought it was interesting that he was the one they talked about, because honestly, it surprised me a little bit that he's been that dominant, because, maybe his resume wasn't what I put up with the other guys. But they get to catch the ball from a guy that I don't know if you've heard of him. His name's Avery Johnson. My friend and colleague Bud Elliott at 24/7 Sports and CBS Sports has apparently not heard of him. I love Bud to death, but he didn't have Avery in his top 10 quarterbacks coming into next season. He had some head scratchers on there. So, Grant, tell me why Avery Johnson should be considered one of the top 10 quarterbacks, because I think he is. Was he flawless? Absolutely not. But when he's good, he's hard to match in college football.
110%. And I've read a few articles of, NFL comparisons, college quarterbacks. And whenever your name's being thrown around with Lamar Jackson, you should probably be a top 10 quarterback in college. This is a guy, once he gets outside, he's running 23 plus miles per hour. That's a hard dude to catch once you get in the open field. That's wide receiver, running back speed. You get that with the quarterback who can also start. He's turned into a gunslinger. I thought he looked really, really good in practice the other day. He missed a deep ball, I think, but every other one, landed right in the chest of the wide receiver. So really excited to see what this guy can do. And now he's kind of growing into his body too. He's been in the weight room with True. He's getting stronger because, when Avery Johnson come in, we've all seen the picture on Twitter, real skinny dude. And now he's starting to put on some of that weight. If he's comfortable in his own body and getting outside and running over a dude, it's really going to be hard to stop this dude. So excited to see what Avery Johnson can do. He's got a full season under his belt as a starter. So I think he's comfortable now, and now he's going to sit back and watch the Avery show.
Jake, does he just kind of, what little we've had of him, does he feel different?
Oh, I think he feels way different. I even think that in the media last week when he showed up, he felt different. He looks different. He carries himself differently. His leadership is already different. You can just kind of feel it. When he walks in a room, he's filling up the room. And it's not to say he hasn't done that in the past, but one thing that a lot of the coaches have highlighted is that, his freshman year, he's kind of trying to find his role. His sophomore year, he really wanted to figure out how to be a starting quarterback and lean on some other guys that had been here for a long time. He's the guy now. He's the guy that's been here for a long time. He's got a full season's worth of start under his belts. So I think it's a totally different feeling quarterback. I think he's more confident. I think he carries himself better. And I'm excited to see what this guy can do, because I think really the sky's the limit for him.
Agreed. Gills, we covered the bowl game. He had a bad interception in that, and that was what he wanted to talk about quite a bit after the game. He was really upset with himself because he cut the ball loose, expecting something to happen that wasn't going to happen. And he said, I understand that the guy was right there and I thought I could get it past him, and why, I don't know. But it's that kind of self-awareness of Avery's strengths and weaknesses that make me think Avery Johnson's going to continue to get better.
Yeah. Glass half full. Avery's learning from those mistakes, right? And if K-State was just very cautious with Avery last season, maybe that doesn't happen. But you kind of go through the fire. You go out in Provo, and bluntly put, guys, Avery, the whole team panicked, but Avery panicked, right? Tried to get it all back in one play, and to really become an elite quarterback, I think you've just got to go through maybe those growing pains with your entire offense. And maybe not to play devil's advocate, but based on potential, right, and all those sorts of things, Avery is 1,000,000% top 10 worthy quarterback. But in terms of like on field at the college level, what's on his resume, maybe, so to speak, in that regard, you could probably find 10 other quarterbacks that are third or fourth year guy that are making strides year after year. I could buy into that, but Avery, if they cut him loose on the ground and he improves with his accuracy, his decision making, his confidence continues to rise, and he is that leader, it'd be very hard to find 10 quarterbacks probably better than Avery. But I mean, you look at the Big 12 guys, like losing, Shadir's gone, right? Like the door's open for Avery to be maybe the face of this league. And it is one of the best leagues in college football, right? You're absolutely one of the 10 best players. So I'd be a little cautious. I'm not going to say he's a surefire, top 10 guy, but based off of on the trajectory, if things keep going this way, then yes. But I'm not sure. It's not 1,000% lock in my eyes.
For a guy that started that thought as being the devil's advocate, and then he delivers a rational, sane point, I'm going to say it. Folks, if you ever need someone to advocate for the devil, it's Ryan Gilbert.
Okay.
He's got it down. Amazing. Speaking of Ryan Gilbert, let's pivot to basketball now, because we've finally seen some action. Both comings and goings of players. I think we were all caught off guard a little bit by Brendan Housen going into the portal, but that was accompanied by the news that Abdi Bashir from Monmouth is committed. Gills, just give me your overall thoughts where K-State's roster is at this point.
Well, where the roster is at this point is not good, right? You need to add more pieces. Bluntly put, you've got to get more playmakers on the roster. And, there's obviously a number of available spots. And so that's not necessarily a huge concern. How Tang and that staff utilize those spots is key moving forward. But right now it's, there's a couple of guys, we can get into that, couple of those German guys later on here in the show, but they're going after guys, and it's obviously going to be important for what they, do at Kansas State. But, losing Hausen was just surprising, right? I'd gotten word the day before that there was like maybe some bad news coming and didn't really know what it meant, right? And obviously Hausen's gone, and it's just, that's kind of the world, though, that you have to live in here in college basketball. Even if you go out and grab a guy from Villanova with multiple years of eligibility and he sees more minutes than he did at Villanova, right? There's still nothing certain. So, it's just – but, yeah, Fitz, I mean, the overall roster right now obviously needs some work, but, there's, of course, time to build that.
Hey, I need some advice from you, devil's advocate. Do I still need to work on pronouncing – Hausen correctly, or did that go into the portal too?
Well, I mean, hey, like he's gone, so there's no reason to even worry about it now.
And take your song too. Hey, Snowden, look, is this that big a loss?
I don't think so. I mean, I don't know. I was always split on Hausen. He's a tremendous shooter. I mean, when he's hot, he's arguably one of the best shooters in the country. But when he's not hitting, do I think having him on the court for a defensive standpoint and off-ball movement, I didn't think he was the best at. So is it a big loss? I mean, we lose a lot of scoring in him, but I don't think it's the end of the world.
Jay, give me your thoughts. He drove me crazy because when his feet were set and he was open, he probably hit about 50%. But that wasn't very often. He was often shooting off of unbalanced feet. If his base was off, he's probably shot 20%. And he kind of drove me crazy because he wasn't athletic enough off the drive to create his own three-point shot. The threat of him taking it to the hole, you wanted him to do that. Mm-hmm. And as an effective three-point shooter, you either have to be able to back up on a consistent basis to 30 feet and shoot it. He showed he could, but maybe not on a consistent basis. Or you got to be able to get around a guy. If you want to get that 22-foot jumper, you got to have some space. And he just never showed me that he could create that.
No, and you're exactly right. I think he drove me similarly crazy as he did you, and I'm sure that we're not the only two in K-State world because of that. But I do think in a way for him, I didn't see him necessarily grow as a player this year, throughout the season at least. I feel like he stayed true to who he was. He was a shooter, and he was a really a lethal shooter at that when he was given space and when he had space to set his feet. Even off the dribble, he was good in that situation. But it felt like maybe this just wasn't the spot for him because there's so much untapped stuff for him to still figure out. And I don't know if that's elsewhere, because if he even just gets the ability to work when he's off the ball instead of just running around trying to find a screen from someone else, if he gets the ability to cut to the basket and just throw some different looks at guys, he's going to get himself open way more from three. And everybody knows that's his strong suit. So he's got potential to continue to grow, and he's got plenty of room to grow. As a basketball player, I don't know that was going to happen at K-State. I wonder if he was thinking the same thing, because he was certainly a surprise entrant into the portal. I think he was a surprise for everybody, but he's also someone that I could see just about anybody in the country, including some of these powerhouses, a guy that they would be pretty happy if he was coming off as the seventh man off the bench and it was just the team's best shooter.
Gills, we see his list of teams. It's impressive, but he ain't going to start at most of those schools. Yep. He ain't going to play 30 minutes a game at most of those schools. He's going to be back to a very similar role that he was at Villanova, who I honestly think underused him, but we see KU on his list. I personally am going to call BS because I don't think he plays good enough defense for Bill Self to recruit. But if he goes there, I think he's going to be that tool in your kit that you bring in to shoot a three-pointer on occasion, and he's going to be about 10 minutes a game.
Yeah. I mean, Brendan, when you asked Grant about how big of a loss is it, it is the only regard in my eyes where it's a big loss is that Houston model that Jerome Tang's kind of trying to replicate, right? Because like I said earlier, Hazen had eligibility left and he departed. Right? Bottom line, that is not what this staff wants. And that's where it maybe stings a little bit, is that Hazen couldn't grow and get better in Manhattan. And you have a losing season. It's much easier to live with a losing season if the guys come back, because it was maybe a stepping stone to something greater. But you lose Hazen, man. I mean, it's just I agree with you, Jake, and you guys mentioned Hazen. I think Hazen had a situation here that the grass is probably not going to be as green as he might think. And you guys, we do have to keep in mind that those lists on social media that we see, those schools, it's not always, hey, we want you, you're our number one guy. It might be just an agent got a floater from some assistant about NIL. So who knows how much real interest is truly there, for Brendan and yeah, I mean, it's an odd situation, man. It's really an odd situation to see him go, but such is life in this world.
And the coaches didn't want him to go. This was his decision, from what I understand. Correct. Does Bashir offset that? I mean, I know he's 6'7", he's a different player, but he was a high volume shooter at Monmouth, which they stunk. I mean, if you got a good player on your team and the team isn't very good and can't score very well, you're going to ask him to take some shots that you really don't want him to take, because he might make those. Didn't shoot the ball great, but he has shown an ability to shoot the ball deep. And, I don't know, Gills, just give me some quick thoughts on Bashir, because You've done some coverage on him, but I actually like this signing. I don't expect him to be a superstar, but I think he's the kind of player you need to be adding. He's a good piece to have on your roster.
Yeah, if you're expecting him to be a superstar, right, if that's why he was brought in, then, yeah, I think you might have some problems that you might run into. Yeah. But if he is, in a Brendan Hazen type role, or he's not a role player, but you guys, you know what I'm saying? He's not the dude. I could probably get behind it a little bit more, but I would take Bashir's probably upside over Hazen, right? Hazen, you kind of knew what you were getting there. Bashir's, I've touched on this in Power Talks and a film study I did for the VIPs on GoPowercat, man. Like, Bashir's defense is awful. There's no getting around that. I mean, that's not even like opinion based. That's fact. Like, look at, I mentioned Evan Maya, the defensive ratings for players. Like, he is one of the worst players in college basketball in terms of defense. And he comes from a 13-win team, had a negative assist to turnover ratio. Like, there's holes in his game. So, but he can score, right? Like, 20 points a game is 20 points a game. There is no ifs, ands, or buts about that. And he can put the ball through the net. And that's obviously something that you like. And, personally, I think he fits well in Jerome Tang's system with just going out and hooping, in that 5-out offense, right? Not a lot of structure, some, free flowingness. Is that a word? That suits Bashir well. And, for right or wrong, you can criticize the offense if you'd like. And, there's arguments to be made on both sides there. But, Bashir is, if you want him to come in and compete for minutes, then that's a good thing, right? If Bashir is going to come in and be a bona fide starter, that's probably not ideal. So I think if he earns it, man, by all means, he can go in and be the number 2 alongside with Doug. But I think you still got to be maybe aiming and going after big guys, right? I know we can touch on the European guys in a minute, but Bashir can't be. I would not be happy if I was a K-State fan and Bashir was the best guy that K-State got this offseason.
Great. Jake, do you think this is it? These two guys, Rich and Husen, are into the portal. I think there's going to be at least one more. I don't know why.
Yeah, I would agree. I have a feeling there's going to be at least one more. I don't know who it could be. I don't know if there's certainly a couple names by fall. I don't know what their plan with him is. I don't know what their plan with CJ Jones is, if they're going to try to increase him back into that starting role or if he's comfortable coming off the bench early. But it certainly feels like there's at least one more that we may not even know about that's going to happen here. But I know on the other side of things, we've got to start adding some size because you lose Coleman, you lose Gasson. You still have Ugo and you still have by fall on the roster at this point. I don't know if both those guys plan to stay or anything. I mean, anything's possible in the world we live in today. So I know you probably want to be going after a little bit more size than I've seen K-State been to be going after. But it's certainly, there's just kind of an eerie feeling that there's at least one more name that'll hit the portal.
I agree. The way the portal works right now, some agent can call up a player and say, hey, look, I'm getting all kinds of interest in you. Total BS, probably. They talk them into the portal and change their lives forever to make a buck. Grant, this has to be a huge year in recruiting. They have to figure this out. Whatever the code was they used in season 1 worked in 2 seasons of failure. They got to figure this out right now, don't they?
Yeah, they sure do. I mean, there's, like Gil said earlier, there's a lot of question marks regarding this team right now. I'm sure I speak for a lot of K-State fans when I'm not so sure I want Onyenso or by fall being our starting big man as of right now. I think you got to go out and get another dude. And Tang's whole thing, his first year when we saw so much success is he went out and recruited winners, right? And you bring in a guy from Bashir and a team in Monmouth that quite frankly just stunk. So I think that raised a couple of question marks for me. So if I'm Jerome Tang, whatever you did your first year, go out, get some winners, get some dudes that just love basketball and love the game. Don't go buy a dude. Don't go get another dude who's just going to chase the money with his agent, right? Go get a dude who just wants to win games and flat out play basketball. So, get back to the good old Elite 8 run days, man. Bring me back.
Agreed. There's a lot more basketball topics to discuss. Ryan Gilbert spoke of the German players. We'll get into the foreign recruiting pipeline. Kansas State's trying to open up when Gills and I go into VIP session, a brief one this time because we don't have a lot of information right now on them. But we'll talk about that and some other basketball topics for our VIP subscribers at GoPowercat. That will come later in the day here with that VIP podcast, but we hope you enjoyed this one as we talked a little football, a little basketball, and now we're going to go away and Gills and I will talk a little bit more about stuff we talk about on our message boards. Why? Because that's who we are. Thanks for watching the PowerCat Podcast. Make sure you're subscribing to this YouTube channel, to the podcast, and, of course, to Gills' personal blog. There isn't one, thankfully. There just isn't one.
This has been a GoPowercat.com and Spirit Street production. Please support this show by subscribing to this YouTube channel or follow us on your favorite podcast platform.